Okay, so welcome back, everybody. This is episode 5?
Yes, I believe it's episode 5.
So it's been a little bit, but the other day, Dom sent me this article. He said, read it. We're going to talk about it on the podcast. I tried to read it, and I didn't. So to start the podcast, we're going to have Dom briefly go over this article about postmodernism. He'll have a much better explanation of it than I will, and we'll talk on that for a little while. So let him know what's up.
Well, first, I wanted to delve into the fact why Skylar couldn't read it. So we must delve into the faculties of Skylar's mind. So we must review where he went wrong in life. I believe it all went wrong with this thing called the trampoline that his daughter bought for his siblings. Not his siblings, his children. And those things are just very violent. And, you can get a lot of, accidents and stuff happen from them. And I believe this resulted into the form we now call Skylar, which is somewhat defective and obsessed with bugs. I mean, what's going on with that, man? He's just always running around talking about dicks. Hey, man, I want to hang out with dicks.
Oh, dicks, right, of course.
I'm just kidding, you're all right, so the article I sent, it wasn't really an article, it was like a Stanford entry. This guy wrote on a famous author called Borges, and the article he wrote is called Neon uqbar orbitus tertius. And I pronounced that wrong, I believe. But anyway, it is about, it starts off with these two guys, and they find in this encyclopedia this country called uqbar. And it's like the
What's
only...
uqbar?
It's this imaginary country in Iran. It's like near the border of Iran, sorry. And they look for it in every other encyclopedia, and it doesn't exist. And apparently, the whole novel basically is about this imaginary world that these academics and intellectuals created. And I think the actual name of the planet is called Tion. And in this article, it is dissecting that, saying Borges is creating this new imaginary world to help explain the reality he was in during the 40s, which would be the reign of Nazism, and his reign, which actually saw a reign of fascism. And he basically illustrates his reality by creating this imaginary world where things are different from reality in it. And let's see what else. It was kind of like it was talking about, the article was a little bit different from Borges' novel in that it said it was a good look into this realm of virtuality, which is different from fantasy, in which we have this virtual world we now see where it copies reality, as we see on TikTok, Instagram, and everything, where it's not really reality, but a reproduction of what we think is the best. So let's see, like with the YouTube beauty people, we see like a fabricated image of someone that looks up to the best in their superficial qualities. And this article is kind of looking into that and saying that the virtuality is like a fantasy world, but without an exit strategy. Like a fantasy will be like GR tokens, Lord of the Rings and whatnot. You have a faculty in your brain that can tell you it's not reality. But now in virtual reality, we're creating the copies and perfecting them, and we don't really know the difference between that and our reality, which I think may be a good indicator to why people are depressed and or just really having a hard time getting around with today. We're seeing that with millennials and just a lot of this generation. It just seems like there's a lot of disillusionment, and we don't know why. But yeah, that was sort of the gist of it. Yeah, what do you think about that?
I was basically talking about an idealized idealized world of where everything is virtual and we forget our actual life and kind of dive into second life, more or less. Okay, sounds like we're playing some Ready Player One shit over here, right?
Yeah.
Or we're kind of going into like a virtual world and whatever. And that's neat how those spaces are evolving, but we have had these cautionary tales of that kind of thing for a long time, like before they were even possible. And so that's kind of neat. We can at least be self-critical of it all while it's happening, and not just forget that it can be negative. And it would be great if we had, guidelines or at least better stories about most things that we can't really obtain at the moment, but we can possibly achieve. It would be great if we had these cautionary things to be like, wait a minute, don't get obsessed with this. Like, who knows what we're obsessed with that we could have had like a dystopian film or book about, 100 years ago, and we just have forgotten and we're falling into the pitfalls of it now,
Yeah. I forgot to mention too, at the end of it, I narrated that another author kind of elongated this work by saying, oh, Borges just came into Australia today. And as we all know that he came and he's always been a long visitor there. But Borges never went to Australia, and it was kind of indicative of him creating this fantasy world, which kind of tangles in with reality in it. And then the author of it kind of focuses in, because it says readers will not be surprised that Borges has entered in Australia, and that phrase "will not be surprised" means that, hey, this is kind of indicative of his work, and it's kind of fantasy. He's not actually coming to it and whatnot. But yeah. Also, too, he didn't really know it was going to be dystopian. It's just a writer. The virtual world didn't exist back then. It was just him looking at it. But this author now in Stanford is taking a look at it and applying it to the virtual world. But yeah.
Right. Makes sense. I mean, the whole thing that's getting us, we get wrapped up in these spaces that are not physical, but, it's more of a mental thing.
Mm-hmm.
Even if it does have a virtual space, a lot of that, it's not a physical location or anything. It's I think that kind of says more about our psyche and more about our obsession with not only ourselves but image, because we're very social.
Right.
So it's a good thing. I think we've actually touched on that before, as far as dealing with like YouTube popularity and internet, fandoms and whatever else. And yeah, it's a good thing to sit back and think about. Some other things that we wanted to talk about, I guess we want to talk about fandoms, is briefly touch on anime and how this applies to the differences in not only humor, but also the way that people perceive, these different forms of media that are not specific to where they're actually from. So first we want to talk about how we noticed it was very different humor, and not only today's day and age, how there's a difference between adults and children's humor. What is considered, potty humor is, for children. Like, just for an example, like, the more nuanced jokes are obviously for adults, but there's a lot of gray area in that. And humor, is very subjective. You can say it's this or it's that. But there's also a difference between, even in America itself, from the 1950s, we probably had a different cultural identity of what is comedic as opposed to 2020, 70 years later. And even in other countries, especially in England, they speak English. We also speak English. Even in the same decade, right now, 2020, I'm certain we have a different idea of what is comical and what will be sold as a joke. And that's obviously different from places that have completely different languages, like Japan. We mentioned that. And you were talking earlier about some old Japanese films you watched and how shocking the shift into comedy from really intense action was. If you could talk a little bit about that.
Yeah. I don't really know why you, with the dimension of adult to children would be. Most of the stuff I've consumed has all been adult. But I would make the fact that a lot of the Japanese humor seems sort of like children's humor while an adult scenario. Because we've all just seen this this new anime called Evangelion. And I would say the humor in it is somewhat childish, really, while the subject matter is very adult. So, like, that whole kissing scene, you remember that scene? Yeah, she's like, come on, why don't you kiss me and stuff? It just seems something like a pre-adolescent will be interesting, or like kind of like material for that, whereas it just seems very off. And I don't know if it could be the age, because that Evangelion was made in a lesser time space between that and the 1950s, so it's hard to see if it's a cultural thing. Is it age? Because I guess it's about 30 years now ago. But yeah, I think it may be cultural, because the things I see in that and in the 1950 things seem off to me. But I guess your idea of it is that it's more of an age thing, right?
Well, some of it is. I think some is an age thing. But when you're crossing foreign lines, is there a difference between adult and child humor? Like you're saying this is Neon Genesis Evangelion. Is the anime we're talking about. Most people know it, very famous.
Yeah. It's quite popular now because of Netflix.
Yeah, and it's a big throwback series. Beautiful, from the 90s. Amazing. You should watch it if you haven't. But he's saying that it's a very serious show, obviously outside of its comedy, and the comedy feels a little out of place, doesn't seem like it fits. Mm-hmm. And that might just be the way it is in a lot of Japanese produced shows. Maybe it's a thing specific to the 90s. Maybe it's a thing specific to anime. Mm-hmm. But the way we perceive it, like I said, there's certain jokes. If you go to watch the Minions movie, you're gonna expect different comedy from if you go see
the Minions.
Oh, it's like Minions from like a Despicable Me and stuff like that. Anyway, it's a series made for children.
Yeah.
If you're going to watch a children's comedy film like Minions, you cannot compare it to an adult comedy film. I mean, because it's not going to be the same jokes. Some things are acceptable, other things are not. There's a little bit of bleed over there.
I get what you're saying. So let's see the difference of the dimensions. Let's go back so there are less variables in this. Let's go to America now and compare children's stuff between us. So Minions is a good example, right? That's American, right?
Yes.
So how would the humor in that be different from today? Or have you seen it?
The Minions movie?
Yeah, have you?
No, I have not. But
okay,
I know the idea of one movie that I watched, and I've been thinking about it recently, is Teen Titans Go to the Movies, which was the Teen Titans show that they have on.
Oh yeah, the little mini work.
Yeah, and they made a movie, and I actually watched it. It was actually very enjoyable because there was a mix of child humor, because it's mostly for children, but also they do well at using their substance matter to talk about, some adult jokes every now and then. Like there's a joke. There's a spoiler alert, by the way. There's a joke where they go back in time and they shove Batman's parents down the alley to get shot so that Robin can become a thing later in the film. That's an adult joke. You don't, the kids are laughing at the poop jokes and the butt jokes, not laughing at the very morbid "we went back in time and killed a man" joke.
We see that a lot with sexual innuendo too, because there are a lot of adult themes in SpongeBob, which seem like what?
Yeah, or Ed, Edd n Eddy's a really good example too. I think we've seen that. There's a lot in that one.
Interesting. Okay, so, but I think the humor in that, for example, I don't know, because like a lot of those, I think children's comedy is very good in that it allowed the adults to kind of enjoy it too while watching the children, like SpongeBob.
Right.
Yeah, though for me though, it just seems like. I can understand that it has its place. For me, it doesn't feel like I'm not getting something to it. Whereas if something foreign with the humor, it just seems off and out of place to me. And I guess it just must be a cultural thing.
Right, and I think that's what we're trying to get at. We're putting together the framework right now to help us understand this, help whoever is listening to understand this. But the main idea is, if you were to watch the Minions movie as an adult in America, it's child humor. You're going into that. If you were to watch a Japanese animated thing as an adult in America and the humor seems off or childish, you wonder why that is. Obviously we have bleed over here, but if you speak the language, you're from the culture, it's a lot different, a lot easier to digest. And that's same across not only age, but also just time differences. Like I said, the 50s stuff that people were laughing at in America is much different from what we're laughing at in 2020. And that's just in one country, span of time. But you can imagine a different language, different country, different time. It's hard to understand that it feels like it belongs.
Right. Okay. Interesting. Yeah. Because I know for a fact Shakespeare, most of the humor in his stuff seems out of place, and you really have to be told it's a joke, unless you see it in play format, and you sort of make some sense. But like a lot of it's like women dressing up as men, and that's just like a whole joke, which kind of seems off to me. And then some of the sexual jokes in it are pretty like intense and actually kind of crude.
Right.
And yeah, you basically have to be told, and part of the subtext here, this is a joke. Yeah, it doesn't translate well. That's the main thing in Shakespeare that doesn't translate really at all. So it's just definitely a fact to it. Yeah, but I mean, some of the jokes too, like for example, in Vigil, there's a shower scene in it where one of the girls in it is just joking, like, "Hey, don't rub me right there," with like the other girls, and they're all like washing each other, and it's just like set off to the side. You don't see it happening. But it's like, weird and pervy. Like, I don't know why you would bother including that in there. And it just seems like, I don't know, like, I would like it about 13 maybe. That would be... Right. But it's an adult, and I think it has to do something with Japan being very sexually repressed.
For sure.
Like, a lot of people that aren't meeting. So that's some weird outlet for them. Because I know, like, I heard in Japan, too, you could just walk by there and see, like, porn shops everywhere. They're just out in the open.
Right.
And they always have that very... like hentai and all that weird stuff, which is very, what's the right word I'm looking for? Cruder or more like
robust.
Intense. Yeah, I guess. And I mean, like, I wouldn't even want to try to think about that, but yeah.
And that's neat to bring up because that's not even just a 90s thing in Neon Genesis. That you can see that in modern anime as well. And like you're saying, you could, if you're in Japan,
very much so much true. Yeah.
Right. Like even shows that are for more of a general audience. Like there's a show, My Hero Academia. It's one of the more popular ones coming out of Japan right now. There's a character, his whole thing is he is a pervert, and that's it. Like he's not a good hero, he's not necessarily good, he's just a laughingstock that he is constantly pervy against all these underage women. I mean, he's also underage. He's a kid too in the show, but it's still seen as a comedic thing and not a weird thing. But and say if you were to take a 2020 today show for general audiences in America, you're not going to have that kind of shit going on. That's because that's questionable here. It's weird.
Yeah, it would be like in The Shining, if Jack Nicholson and his wife just said like, "Oh, you're staring at me in the bathroom or something," like, "Oh," like their faces like get all intense. It's a weird comical scene, and then you're like, "What?" Like in Evangelion too, when it's like funny, the females, they like change their form into more cartoonish shape. Like they'll like deform it, and just for me, it's very immersive breaking. But I do know. Have you seen that anime, the Titan one, with the giant like Titans that they like kill?
No.
Do you know?
Attack on Titan.
Yes,
I've seen that. Yeah.
They don't usually break the script with that.
No,
do
they're
usually.
There was one or two. Because I've actually seen all of that because I think it's a very good show.
Yeah.
And there was one or two times where they do weird pervy jokes like that, and it feels beyond off. It does not feel right at all because, like you said, the rest of the show is played straight. The rest of the show is people are dying. This is terrifying. There's like some weird mystical element. We're confused. The world is in chaos. So there's no time to be like, oh, let's make a pervy joke now. And Evangelion is similar. And I think that's why you're having a problem with it is the whole idea is there are demons, right? Destroying everything. We need to fight the demons with our giant mechs. And we have to be efficient and, we have to do this professionally. But it doesn't feel right to throw in a pervy joke.
Yeah.
But they do anyway. And I guess that's just because that's the lighthearted humor that's expected in Japan. Here it might be a little different. You might have like a fart joke or a butt joke, and then they might see that as crude. They might be like, that has nothing to do with sex. That is just gross. Farts are gross, And that's cultural differences, and that's neat to think about. Here in America, we're so America-centric. It's hard to understand another country's sensibilities a lot of the time.
Yeah. Yeah, interesting. Yeah, I guess it's just something like a little like on thing we can't like surpass or not.
Right.
Too with Japanese anime and whatnot, all the characters are always burdened with direct exposition for them directly telling us what is happening in front of them. There's no such thing as subtext or metaphor within it, which when you're shown something. If you're shown something in anime, they have to explain it, how it relates to them, how it relates to their childhood, in so much as a trite, banal way that it kind of like, all right, dude, just you could have just not talked about it and just shown it to us. And that always annoys me. I think it's one concept Japan has had a hard time understanding, at least. And for me, I feel like the idea of plot is skewed too. Like, for example, you have that arc. Man, I forgot the word for it, which is stupid. But, you have the protagonist and antagonist, and you have them rise up, and then you have that initial conflict that reaches the end, and then it goes down. It's like a little curved slope. But towards anime, their whole idea is plot is just making all these twists and turns and try to like, oh shit, I didn't know that was going to happen. And they just keep on going all over the place, and it turns into like spaghetti, the plot. You don't really know what the fuck's going on. Like, Metal Gear Solid is a really good example of that. Where if you just try to follow what's going on in the plot on a logical basis, you're just going to lose your mind. I don't know what's wrong with that. But Kojima loves to do that. But that's also interesting, I think.
Oh, that's neat that that's also reflected in games, though. Because also, what is it? Final Fantasy?
Is
another one that's really bad about that, where they're like, we need to continue it. We don't want to stop it.
Yeah.
Let's just say they turn into this thing.
Yeah, that's one of the most convoluted plot lines ever. And I think, too, it's like every game is different in America. There's actually, like, one, or like this is like the fourth one's the third or some shit.
Right.
But yeah.
I think the reason it's weird, I mean, I guess Metal Gear takes itself a little more seriously, but like, say things like Kingdom Hearts that don't take themselves too seriously, because it's just a video game, whatever. But if they try to pretend like they're also wanting to take it seriously while they don't take the plot seriously, then it's confusing and hard to digest.
Yeah, I've heard people criticize Kingdom Hearts too, though, for being somewhat convoluted.
Right.
I think with the new one, at least. Yeah, that's a cool idea, though. I like that. Yeah, I get what you mean. Metal Gear Solid is an aberration, though, because it's weird. It's like not a video game. It's kind of like a movie, like half movie, half video game. So they go like with 20-minute cutscenes throughout it, even in the first one. Yeah.
I wonder if they just wanted to make a film and were
like,
no, you can only make a video game. And he's like, okay, fuck you. I'm gonna put a movie in my video game. I don't care. Let's see what else is happening right now. I don't know if we feel like diving into it, but as we're recording this, Belle Delphine came back a
Okay.
week or so ago. That's been blowing up the internet. It's relevant right now. And I saw a thing. She released an OnlyFans when she came back, and she got over 3,000 subscribers from the 15th, which today is the 23rd, so like a week or so. And each of them pay $35. So for this month, she's making $105,000 off of her subscribers. And I've long had the position of, I think the women doing this are smart. I think they are abusing the system, which is great. They're making money. They're being highly capitalist. They're being smart about it. I hate the men, though. I have always hated the men that do this kind of thing. I feel like prostitution is different. You know, you're paying for sex. That's you getting a service. I feel like paying for nudes is different. And I think we've already touched on this before, but Belle Delphine coming back is like a big... She was, one of the main ones then driving this whole idea of you buy nudes, OnlyFans, private Snap, whatever. Yes. There's lots of simps out there paying a lot of money for very little in return. I think we've already touched on that, but that's relevant to bring up.
Yeah, and as you always know, my position of that is prostitution.
Mm-hmm.
She is kind of a whore. For a whore, I mean, just sending a new pic. I mean, she's making a ton of money. It's making more money than sucking dick, I guess.
It's true. It's way less dangerous.
Yeah, and a lot of it is the idiot stuff. And a lot of them too, like stream it or they'll make a video about it of them like looking at the bathwater, which is a bathwater thing. Everyone bought into it. And they're like, oh, I'm gonna drink the bathwater now, and they kind of did it themselves for a view count, but at the same time just degrading themselves and what they're buying, and then everything in it. And I don't know. It's just I don't really respect her. I think she's just kind of shitty and just trying to make a quick buck. She probably ran out of money from the last thing that she did.
Yeah, I'm certain she did. But that kind of in a weird way ties into what we were talking about at the very beginning about the virtual world. How you've taken what would be considered prostitution and put it online, made it way less dangerous.
More profitable, yeah.
Right, much more profitable and easier to do. You can do it from home. You can do it during a pandemic. When you aren't supposed to touch.
Yeah, that was a big point. I think a lot of them were made during that. But yeah, I would see it as a portent for the future, which would be a warning. And we're just now going to see the destructive ability of it. Because, I mean, yeah, I don't think it's good. And it also reflects on society, too, that she's allowed to do it. And she almost receives so much praise for it.
She's a celebrity, yeah.
Yeah.
She's very popular.
And, and also with YouTube, another interesting thing is this whole ongoing debate between H3H3 and Keemstar.
Oh, that's still a thing?
Yeah, it's still going on.
Okay. I haven't been keeping up with that at all.
Well, you remember I told you, well, I'd start off with, basically this is the way I look at it. H3H3 was getting a lot of shit. He made this one video where he attacked one somewhat ubiquitous YouTuber called Some Ordinary Gamer, who was railing on him for having a $10 million house or whatever, and like expecting Jeff Bezos to donate while he himself isn't. He attacked this guy. He got some of his points were right, and the guy apologized, and I think that gave him a little bit of confidence. And you're like, you know what? I'm just gonna try to retake iDubbbz's career and attack Keemstar because he's the greatest guy that's done a lot wrong. And he introduces this content nuke, he called it, and he put it on Keemstar. It did not, I don't think, go very well because most of the points he was making against Keemstar were hypocritical, and he himself has done most of the things that he is accosting Keemstar for. So for me, it just looked like shit. And then Keemstar brought up all the stuff that he's done wrong, and both of them were kind of right when they criticize each other. And H3H3 was much more serious about it. Keemstar actually, I think, took it better, and he was more speaking in jest, like, all right, this is kind of stupid. And I really think it hurt H3H3. Because then Goku Naruto's video got brought up, which was... Have you seen that one yet?
No, I haven't seen that. I know
it's very good, but yeah, it pretty much criticized H3H3, and Keemstar put it on his channel, and it got taken down, even though he edited out the scene that apparently got it taken down. And everyone started uploading it, saying, this is the video H3H3 didn't want you to see. And then their podcast, H3H3 actually went over it. And he made everyone call him in and basically apologize or say there's no beef between him. Like all the things like in JonTron. Mm-hmm. Yeah, the video critiqued H3H3 for like bringing up that whole rant in their interview. So he called up JonTron and like made sure, hey, we're okay, right? And it just looked bad for him too. Like there's no way he can really dig himself out of it. But he's still going at it. They're still hitting each other on Twitter. And apparently Leafy's now into it, and he says H3H3 got his thing down, and apparently, I don't know. It's just a whole lot of noise. But Yeah.
Right. Last I heard of that was that it was a thing, but I didn't know it was still ongoing. I guess I'm not too surprised though, because it's probably generating revenue for both of them. That's the whole point of controversies, right? Is to generate revenue. But they're already really big. Like, I don't think either of them really need more revenue. I guess it's just to stay relevant on a dying platform, you know?
Yeah, what's interesting to me is the sponsors, because they can criticize a sponsor and the sponsor will leave them. I'm surprised sponsors are so skittish at this point, because it's basically, this happens all the time. Like, there's people, sponsors get taken away when another person doesn't like someone. They just, like, go after their sponsors.
Mm-hmm.
Which I feel like at this point they should be, like, just iron fast and basically, like, when they receive criticism, like, alright, whatever, fuck off.
I love the idea of, today's episode is brought to you by Coke. Coke says, fuck Keemstar, you know? Like,
yeah. And now, apparently, you're not allowed to cuss on YouTube anymore because they're trying to, like...
There's a lot of weird words that you're not allowed to use. It's the same thing as radio, where there's, like, specific versions. Like, I think you can't say goddamn on the radio, but you can say God. And they'll censor out God from goddamn instead of damn, which is weird. But one of my friends... He used to work at a radio station for a university here.
Oh,
yeah, and he would tell me all about all the different words that you can and can't say on the radio. They can't play certain songs because they have too much of this word, but it's weird the kinds of words, and the usage or amount of the word can also slide depending on what it's in. And I guess YouTube's at the same level now, which is interesting. Another thing about YouTube I've heard about a lot is because I like watching some Pokemon channels, you know. A lot of those people are getting flagged as children's channels. So they are not getting the same amount of leeway, and they're not getting the same amount of sponsorship. They're getting taken down a lot more. They're much more harshly enforced and policed than the non-kids channels. But they're still adults. You know, they're just talking about Pokemon or opening Pokemon cards. Same thing with toy review channels and stuff. Even if it's not trying to target children, it's just trying to target, you know, older people that are nostalgic for this property. Like, video games are also on a very interesting tilt right there, where it can fall into either one. And if you're in the children's camp, it's really hard to get out, and you lose a lot.
Interesting. And it's hard for YouTube because with radio, you know who's doing what. You can regulate. There's not like petabytes of data coming into radio now that they have to regulate. And that's the main thing YouTube's criticized. They criticize some people and they don't criticize another, depending on who goes at them. And there's this whole black wall, this cloud of unknown that we don't know with YouTube, why they make a call. Because a lot of it's bots. And they can't control it. And it's just crazy. I don't think it's going to work out long run for Google. I think Google doesn't actually make a lot of money off of it. They just keep it up there because it's just so culturally relevant to have YouTube on there. But at this point now, it's just, I mean, most of the stuff on there I see is trash. It's just people not really making content anymore.
Right.
Now, give or take, there's a lot of cool tech stuff I watch, and it's original. And there are some weird kind of channels that still make original art, like Pilot Red Sun and Jake Staubert. But I mean, the main line of it is just commentary channels, and you know, those are just really stupid, I think.
Right. There's a neat website. I don't remember the name of it. But it's a website, because there's so much stuff that's uploaded to YouTube, like literally every second of the day. And it's a neat website that is, you click onto it and you can refresh it, and it shows you a video that was uploaded just now, like right then. And a lot of the time, I've spent a while on that, you know, a couple hours just being like, I'll come back to it, you know, 20 minutes, click it, see what new video was just uploaded right now to YouTube. I mean, it does it chronologically. It's not just by big creators. It's not by people with a lot of subscribers. It's any video. It does not matter.
Oh, okay.
Any video uploaded. The zero view videos. And a lot of them are like weight loss ads from foreign countries. So it has a totally different language on like the text barrier right there. And there's these creepy ambient songs being played on them, but it's trying to get you to buy this product. And it's like a 20-minute long video, just like, and it's like weight loss pill. And it's like a bunch of shit in like Hebrew or whatever. It's confusing and it's strange, but it's an era, you know, it's a category I guess I never thought about, and I didn't realize that much is going into YouTube every second of the day.
Yeah.
And it's a lot of bullshit, and I wonder if that stuff gets removed by bots, because it's, you know, it's not doing anything. It's not real content. It's an advertisement, and that's all it is. Who's watching that? You know, it's it's a little dystopian in a way because it's just scary.
Yeah.
And you don't know what video you're gonna find if you're there live when some guy uploads a video that hasn't been taken down yet, that is not supposed to be on YouTube. You know, that could be kind of scary, a little scarring.
Yeah, I definitely get that. I think. Yeah, it's kind of like the kids' channels too. When they first came up, they're really weird. I think they themselves were bots, and they just somehow kept on shifting all this stuff until like it just weren't stuck, and like a lot of people started viewing it.
I agree.
But people were amazed by the view counts of them, and just like how it was like the same thing, but it would shift a little bit. They were just so weird. I don't think we ever got the. Really, what the fuck was going on?
I remember actually there was a TED Talk about it where they briefly talked about, and I watched that, and some other people talked about it. I think even H3 talked about it a long time ago.
Yeah, PewDiePie hit it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Those videos were interesting because they were, like you said, they're all computer animated animations, the exact same thing, only like the color of a character would change or something. Same video, same thing, uploaded. They'd upload like 50 of them a day or more, and they had viewer bots on those videos. So they'd upload it, the view bots would watch it en masse, they'd get it up to billions of views, millions, like hundreds of millions of views, so that it was in the recommended, really high up. So if you just search kids fairy tale, kids song, kids whatever, you get these just videos that are just absolute trash, and a child doesn't know any better.
Yeah, some of them are actually kind of disturbing. Like
it's scary.
Spider-Man Elsa ones.
When they were pregnant Elsa Spider-Man videos.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's gaming the algorithm though, and it's interesting. I guess it's an easy way to make money, but I don't know how you make money off of your view bots, because ideally you're partnered and you get money through the views or through the ads.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess these were ad friendly technically because they're children, but I don't know how you get money off of a view bot other than just having it at the top of the recommended when a child searches, or when the mom who has no idea searches children's videos on YouTube and hands them the iPad.
Yeah.
And they just keep rolling. Yeah. So that's a scary part, is letting your children grow up on an iPad. I see it in the stores a lot of the time now. And, I'm not a parent. I think I probably don't have a whole lot of room to judge, but I know I wouldn't do that shit.
Yeah.
I guess is what I'm getting at. It's like it's how to ruin a child 101.
Mm-hmm.
I get that they can be annoying, and I played video games growing up. My parents were like, go play your game, you're being annoying, or go outside, you're being annoying. But they were never like, watch these like brainwashing, disgusting videos on YouTube that a bot made in India.
Yeah.
They never did that to me.
Yeah.
And I'm just, do the parents think about it? They ever look at what their child's
looking at? I think it could be like
at?
a neglectful. I've seen a couple of parents where their children, they were just like playing on the iPad the whole time they were there.
Yep.
And I think it depends on a level of neglect, how good a parent they are. But yeah. Well, you got a lot of them that aren't. There's no stay-at-home mom or dad anymore, so a lot of them I could see that them just having an iPad for a long amount of the day.
And even beyond that, a lot of children are really getting raised by the internet nowadays.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't mean that just the iPad moms that give them, their child a thing while they're at Target, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like kids that, like you're saying, parents aren't around, or they only have like a single parent, and that single parent has to work all the time. So they, the other single parent also has to work all the time because they don't have a dual family household, and the child is left to just understand the world around them by the internet, by the virtual world that there is. So again, we're hitting that first part we started on, how there's a separation, but now a lot of days it doesn't feel like there is. It's starting to kind of coalesce into one, especially for children that grew up not knowing one or the other, but generally it's they'll know the virtual more than the real.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting.
So they'll learn from celebrities, they'll learn from what's trending, which is not healthy. Just because it's trending, just because it's big, doesn't mean it's important to help your development as an adult. And some of the instances of this, the parents are to blame. But if they're working all the time, you can't really blame a parent for that kind of thing. That's hard. And I recognize that's hard.
Yeah.
But a lot of kids are raised through the internet, like through Tumblr. They'll watch YouTube all the time. They're on Snapchat, Facebook, whatever. And I don't know how especially as an adult from a different generation that did not grow up with this. I feel like our generation, when we get older, we did grow up with this stuff. We can have these cautionary talks to our children and better monitor it in a way that doesn't seem unnecessary or too much.
Right.
because I think a lot of older adults from baby boomer generation, maybe even Gen X, they're old enough to have kids now. I think.
Yeah.
And some early millennials. Like older children, like their teens and stuff, when it's actually pertinent.
Yeah, I mean the virtual wasn't as much as meshed when we were growing up.
Right, and we saw it, and we kind of dove into it ourselves. But the children that are being born now, or were born even like 10 years ago, that's harder for generations that did not grow up with that to delineate how much should I be giving them, and then the children will hate their parents in return for you. Completely turned me off from this world that all of the people I know are on, but how much is too much?
Right.
And I'm certain that's a thing that child psychologists have been talking about, and behavioralists. I'm not that by any means, but I have eyes. I can see shit when a kid's watching the Indian bot videos on in Target. I'm like, what the hell is going on?
Yeah, it's hard because we don't have kids either, and I feel like, but from what I heard, you don't really know. Can't really give advice to a parent, just gotta let them go through
right
it.
Exactly, and that's why I started saying I don't have a kid, so obviously I don't have really room to say, but I could see what's happening.
Yeah, it's very interesting. I would say at least when we first started with the internet, it was a little bit more, it was a different world, but now it's trying to be the world.
Yes.
And now we have people's doxing always intrigues me because it's like, well, this is what we're putting out there. It's weird to connect that to a real person. That's somewhat being tied together is bad. But, it is. You're not allowed to dox someone. It's considered a faux pas or something for the internet community to do. But at the same time, it is you posting that stuff.
Yeah, it's all public available records.
Yeah.
Either you put it there or through governmental stuff. Some things are just public.
Mm-hmm.
And if it's on the internet, which is the best cataloging thing we have right now, then it's going to be there.
Yeah. But and then people on the internet do the weirdest shit where they like with the streamers, they'll call them bomb threats, SWAT.
Yeah.
Actually, have you seen some of those IRL streamers? That shit's so weird.
Or they just walk around.
Yeah, there's one called Asian Andy.
Yeah,
and he got paid $2,000 just to sleep, and he had a speaker hooked up to his phone, and they would send text through the speaker, and they could send a voice clip. Every time we try to fall asleep, they just stand out and they did that for 12 hours, and they would donate. And he just goes walking around Walmart and shit, and they just try to stream out "Oh, I'm pedophile, blah blah blah," and bursts out their speakers and tries to hide it. It's so weird, dude. And I paying to ruin his life temporarily, but he makes a shit ton of money doing it. Yeah, weird.
Yeah, I've seen some others kind of similar to that. I remember this thing. It could have just been some weird, 4chan creepypasta, whatever. But I remember hearing this thing about there was this website where it was just a bunch of hidden cameras or hidden things, or it was people accessing baby monitors and things remotely.
Oh yeah.
And live streaming someone else's baby monitor from a random stranger's house to the rest of all these people, and that is very interesting. You're much more in the tech space, and especially
you could do that. This was a big thing when the internet things came out, which was this revolutionary thing where everything got connected to the internet. It was mainly critiqued just because everything was unsecure, and I forgot the port that they do it on, but video ports can be accessible to anyone, and it became a lot of them got hacked real easily. I think a lot of the Lexus ones came up, and people hacked into them, and they talked through them, which is kind of creepy. And but now they kind of phased down on that. But there's this site called Shodan where you can basically see all the unencrypted IPs throughout the world. And they have one where they a Russian server just streams school stuff, and a lot of it was found leaked to this Russian site that was just streaming it. Very weird stuff. So yeah, a lot of it is unencrypted, and to encrypt it and do it a steadfast security would entail for someone to know exactly what the internet is and how it works with the protocols. No one really knows it, and it's kind of weird, and they just get a program to do it for them, which is, there's so much, the Zoom things when they first came out, they got accosted too because their protocol was easy to break into. I remember one famous journal for Vox or something, one who got I think it was the one who got Sam Hyde, who attacked his series.
Right.
He got in trouble for breaking into other news sites or financial consultant Zoom meetings and reporting on the news based on what he heard.
Oh.
And he got arrested for that. But a lot of people were doing that. And in fact, actually some British authorities got in trouble because they would break into all this shit all the time. And there was one case where a kid died, and the journalist broke into the phone to see if she was still alive. And when the phone got broken into, it emitted a ping. And it told the authorities that the phone was still active, so it gave false hope to the parents that she was alive.
Oh,
and then press got sued in that case. That was a big precedent case. So yeah, weird shit like that happens all the time. And it's just weird. And it sucks too, because the hackers, like the cool ones that just go around to like fuck shit up, or they just do like a 4chan thing, where they just change your whole website to like a funny GIF or something. That's all gone now. It's all like ransomware, trying to get your money and stuff. It's not like fun. And yeah.
So then, going back to like the baby monitors and everything like that, where you could just
sorry.
hack it. No, you're good. I like that. It's very interesting stuff to hear about. But things like the Ring doorbells and all that are coming along.
Yeah. Oh,
I'm curious, since you know a lot more about this, as far as webcams and like saving your phone camera and like baby monitors, Ring cams, even like security cameras. How much of that is easy to get into in 2020? Do you think?
I don't know. Let me look it up. I'll see what port to go on to real quick.
We'll always go into that. I want to let you know I do have a flower sticker over my computer webcam. Not because I'm especially paranoid or anything, but I also just don't know that much about it. So it's always a thing.
You don't know much about flowers?
Oh yeah, I don't know a whole lot about flowers though. But no, it's a part of the world that I think a lot of people worry about. Especially when you deal with doxing and stuff, like, oh man, how much do they know about me? How much they can get into everything I have? And also reflects to banks. Banking is mostly online now. So it's if you don't know much about the way to traverse the digital world and how to stop these things, it can be scary. Now, if I had a sponsorship from NordVPN, this is where I would put it, because I just had the perfect segue for it, but I don't. So Dom is currently
I'm looking it up.
Stuff.
The one I look up, the only news article I got was 2008, and it says 480. And that's the case. That's got to be antiquated by now, because that's HTTP, and that's unsecured, and that would be easily broken into. Actually, no. Most of the web doesn't use HTTP anymore. It's HTTPS, which is a secure layer, and it uses a layer of authentication. But yeah, I don't know what port. I'll have to look into it. It's probably a lot easier than what they think. And you gotta know, too, that when you transmit that, too, there's also a lot of data mining that goes on. Like, that's why I would never get one of those stupid fucking, like a doorbell or something like that. Also, because it's kind of hard to use. And two, it's hooking up to the internet. I mean, you don't really know what's going on unless you, like, sniff the traffic going through it, which no one can do. And then you need, like, a Wireshark thing. I mean, I can do it, but it's a little hard for the layman, too.
Right.
And I mean, it seems to be more overhead than it's worth. For example, like a smart fridge can tell you, like, when's the next time to buy groceries or something. That seems kind of stupid. Like, it's like you can figure that out yourself on your own. It's not worth the utility.
Right.
Like, for example, the smart printers. I think we had one. You could, like, use your phone to mail or print out something, and it was just so much overhead, and it was really hard to use. Whereas then a simple USB printer, you just plug it in.
Plug it straight in. Yeah,
and there's no drivers or anything. Just works. Boom. Whereas this smart printer, like, took hours to get it to work. It was stupid.
I agree. I've always had trouble. I was trying to set one up at my office, and it just didn't work out for me. I was like, I just need to go buy a cable and plug it in. This isn't worth the time or the effort or the energy, because, like, yeah.
Also, too, why would you have, like, the ones who use webcams for their kids inside there? I get it. There's, like, I think they're kind of preying on the over anxious parent a little bit. Because you don't really need a webcam of your kid. You don't need to look at them and make sure they're okay. I mean, just check on them, right? I just feel it just seems weird. And if someone be able to hack that, and they're streaming that, I don't want to think of who's on the other end of that pipeline.
Right. And that's what got me thinking about it too. Because I was on that site and they just had videos of the streams going. They could have been old archived ones, but it was definitely live whenever it was taken, and the people had no idea, whoever were in the house.
And this thing actually brings me up to an interesting point, because I remember there's a lot of these things where they, a lot of YouTube sites where people attack scammers. And one of them was like this Facebook, or what was it? It was like a thing where, it has a flashing screen that says you got a virus.
Right.
And, people actually click on that. And this guy reverse hacked that.
Right.
And because of that, the whole business to him was open. And he got through all the camera monitors in it. He found all this clip farm of Indians. And he mapped out who was who and how the whole business operation worked. Because he got the cameras to the main rooms where the big two guys that ran it were meeting and talk. And he got the audio from it and he reported to the authorities and how they were active. But all this stuff was unsecure. And he figured out who was who because every time he would get hacked, he was doing it by fake. And they would use his screen. So he would use his screen to be a big pink background. So when they hacked him up, they would show pink on the webcam and he would mark up who was who. Because then they had older files which are unsecure and it just showed them how they made money. And they would get these 80-year-olds and they would basically trick them, say their computer was hacked, and they got them to go buy a Walmart gift card. Yeah. And they would go and give them the name for it. And they basically get it's untraceable, and they get the money from that. And they prey on them because they're really passive for some reason, 80-year-olds. They don't understand how the internet works.
Right.
But yeah, it was interesting.
You would think that scammers would be a little more secure if they're trying to scam through the internet.
Mm-hmm. That's become a thing now, too, though, which is just to make fun of the scammers.
Yeah. I've seen that before. There's a comedic guy that did a TED Talk where he just kept going with the scammers. But that was on audio. That was a phone call or something where he just kept going to see what they said he had to do. And
they don't really know what they're doing either. But yeah, it's they're all in India. I guess they don't have a lot of restrictions for that. They don't have anyone coming down knocking on their door. But yeah, it's crazy.
Wild stuff the internet is. I know very little about a lot of it, but it seems like a thing that's so it's a mystique. If you are not into computer science or into coding or understanding networking, it can seem as an impossible thing to go through.
It still seems impossible to me for the network because there are just so many things you don't know as opposed to you do. For example, Bitcoin, I don't know very little of that, and it just seems very complex.
Yeah,
it almost seems like a thing people like to talk about. Just for the sake of other people not knowing what it is. Right.
I can see that. I can see that for sure. Isn't that an idea of Bitcoin where you will use someone else's proxy or use someone else's IP and use that to mine for you?
Yeah, that was a hack. There were some of these viruses that went around that are actually really cool. Where they basically took a cloud kind of computing thing where they hacked into your computer and they only used a little bit of your processing power at a time. And think of that, they did 80 computers with it. Yeah. And then they would sort of mine at low key without you even knowing.
Was it a zombie, whatever it was called?
Your computer's technically a zombie for it. But yeah, it's supposed to be you won't even know. I'm not sure if those were profitable or not. Because now, apparently there's some supercomputers in China that mine it now. They make money. It used to be you could just have a good setup computer and you can mine it for money. But I think the thing is, the more you mine it, the harder the algorithm is. Because I don't even understand how you mine it. And shit. I don't know. It's really complicated. And you can hack, too, the address. So you could just by random, check them.
Yeah.
Because each Bitcoin has an address. And that's basically where it's set up. So I guess he just, brute force all of these addresses. And when that comes up with money, I guess you can use. Because I think that's a problem, too, where people get their addresses hacked into.
Right. And that's why most people say if they were mining, they would either use zombies, like you're saying. So that way it's not their address at all. Or I imagine they're using several different VPNs, and they're
proxies. Proxies on top of that, or Tor.
Right.
But it's become a thing now. When Bitcoin first came out, it was supposed to be the currency of the internet, but now it's just for clandestine operations.
Yep.
On the dark web because it's all untraceable, which is weird. You don't really have Bitcoin if you're trying to make money off of it, maybe. But yeah, which a lot of people are because it's just going up and down heavily. And you can't profit off of that because it's just a lot, but they don't really know.
Yeah, I remember when it was first becoming a thing.
Yeah.
And obviously there's a massive crash, a couple of years ago. And I'm not sure the public has really dealt with it too much, aside maybe the snarky Redditor, whatever. But it was interesting, though, because years ago, my uncle came to town and he was talking to us, to my dad about Bitcoin. That was an up-and-coming thing, and how my dad should try to get into that. Mm-hmm. This was years ago, 10 years ago. A while ago, and my dad's like, I don't know about all that. Yeah, cause, my dad's older, and we don't know to the extent that our uncle continued doing Bitcoin or invested in it. Mm-hmm. But he seems like a pretty smart man. I feel like he got into it and sold right before it crashed because he seems like he's got a good bit of cash right now. And if that was the case, then that's what most people should have done. If they should have done it like it was a stock market,
Which would have extenuated the slope downwards, though.
Exactly.
If everyone sold it, would have.
Exactly. And that might have been what happened. It could have been an all agreement of those that are not, say on the dark web.
Yeah, it's probably tied to the stock market a little bit because with the economy crashing, I'm sure it went down a little bit.
Right.
But yeah, when I first got into it, it was like $50 for one Bitcoin.
There's
and
still
now
it's
tripled.
2,700. Like it's
Yeah,
expensive.
it's
right
so
now.
much higher than it was. Yeah, fuck.
Yeah.
If you just bought like 10 grand worth of Bitcoin, you would have have like
Exactly.
triple your investment.
And I remember reading a thing about a guy that spent $500 on Bitcoins when it first came out, and then he flipped it for like 100,000 or something.
Yeah.
Like, dude, holy.
Yeah.
That's
Hindsight
amazing.
is 2020 though.
Yeah. So that's also in neat relation to the virtual world thing we were talking about, but not exactly.
Yeah.
Kind of relates to it though. How you have your own money and everything. You don't even need that. Very, very neat. The internet is. I'm not sure if there's anything else you want to hit on today.
I think we exhausted most topics I wanted to talk about. Yeah. What about you?
I think I'm good.
All right. Cool. Yeah. Well, goodbye, everyone. 5 people.
Thank you for tuning in. Make sure to hit that like button.
No, don't do that.
Click that
No.
subscription bell.
Unsubscribe.